Everyone. Welcome to this evening's Planning and Transportation Committee meeting of Ashby Town Council. We'll start off with any apologies.
Yes, we have two apologies, Councillor Blair Park and Councillor Zamani.
Right. We'll move on to the public participation session then. So is there anyone in the audience who wants to speak? Yep, sure.
I'll just get up, so hello. I'm hearing about the Hill Street no waiting order, so myself and most of the residents have kind of compiled a letter to, I think it's the county council that have put this forward. And essentially it's no waiting times at any point along the entirety of Hill Street, and basically the overall feeling for the residents is that it's quite overreaction essentially. Obviously appreciate it's a bit of a difficult road to drive down sometimes when it is busy, so our suggestion would be residents only licensing and maybe some bays and having the double yellow lines on the one side of the road, leaving bays and the opportunity for residents to park. Obviously, on a personal note, my partner's a firefighter at Ashby Fire Station, so we need to have two cars and we've only got the ability to park one car. And obviously with a newborn and a 6-year-old, that's quite difficult to find alternative parking. There's not like a road next to it that I can just, any of the residents can just park down and walk around. You've got Burton Road, in Kilwalby Road, which is far too busy. So yeah, I don't really know how this works, to be honest with you, but I just wanted to come and kind of share my thoughts, but also kind of the thoughts of most of the residents who kind of put a letter together saying basically everything that I've just said. So I don't know how it works. Yes.
I know certainly when the announcement was made, county did say that they've done it in consultation with us, which is wrong. When it comes to Hill Street, that is definitely a proposal made by the county councillor for Ashby and not to do with the town councillors. As the town council have responded to that consultation saying, we don't agree with Hill Street. Because as you've said, there is literally nowhere for you guys to park afterwards. And normally when we've asked for speed control issues, one of the first things county do is say, well, if there is cars parked on the street, it will slow you because obviously you don't want to smash your car in. So we've responded as a town council basically saying we will be responding. We will respond. Sorry, I thought it was this week. But yeah, we'll be responding with regards to that.
Awesome. So kind of objective and no waiting and say some other suggestions.
But if you're writing in as residents, that always helps.
We have done, and we've completed like the forms and stuff like that. So I just wanted to come today and share my mission, please.
No, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you. I might go off then.
No,
Thank you so much. Yeah. Did a good job. Well done. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you agree with what?
Yes. So we're going to say we've still got to go through the actual bit, but I think from the conversations I've had with councillors, that's the sort of general.
It's a sensible option, isn't it? Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, my name's Andrew Cook. I'm born and bred Ashby. I've been here for a number of years and recently moved out of Ashby. I live in Portland now, but my family still live in Ashby. And I thought it was important for Mum tonight to listen to the views on 089 footpath.
Thank you so much.
My granddaughter uses it, and we've had a few conversations. It seems to flying up on Facebook, and quite a lot of different issues with it. And she says it's dangerous. And then when they closed it last year for, I can't see whatever apparent reason it was, she said the road is dangerous. It's not very dangerous to be crossing over the top of North Street. It's very dangerous. And how somebody's not been killed yet there, that's why I'm here.
That's right. I say there should be a copy of a letter that was written to District Council that's on the seats there for you guys relating to Pat 89 that we've had. Was it Wainwright's who put a correspondence in relating to phase 2 on Money Hill where they've talked about that footpath, but we'll come on to that at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in the audience tonight?
We're just here to listen to
No
the
problem.
result of the O89 as well.
Yeah, no problem. That's
There's one person online, but the person online, Tracy, did you want to comment at all?
no, I assume right. Right, we'll move on to item 3 then. Any declarations of interest? Yeah, Carl.
If I could just remember, Chair, item 12, the regulation on orders on various roads. I am a resident of Market Street, and although I just want to report that, but the changes to there are no changes immediately by my residence, so I feel able to comment.
And any requests for dispensation?
We haven't received anything.
Okay, right, we'll go on to the minutes then from the June meeting. Is there any comments for anyone, or do we have a proposal for those? Councillor Smith and then. Right, and then annex 2 then, payment of accounts then, so that's for £3,221. Again, do you have a? Yeah.
Move it, David, Chairman.
Right, we'll move on then to this update. So we've got Inspector Steve Bird with us this evening. So it was yours.
Well, thank you, Chair. Thank you for letting me come along tonight and just give you a bit of an update about various things. I think I just wanted to start really with providing a bit of an overview of the crime data that we record, specifically for sort of Ashby and East London area that we cover. We obviously do many metrics that comes into us about how we're actually performing and different types of crime types that we're actually recording. The most common things that we obviously find are the theft offences, ASB related type behaviours, criminal damage, public order offences. So the data that I've pulled off tonight, just to give you a bit of an overview about it for the last quarter, so that's since the 1st of April. So the positive from our perspective, from the local policing commander perspective, is that theft offences are down nearly 30%, 29%. Criminal damage is down 22%, and public order offences are down 24%. So clearly we're still experiencing problems like this, but the positive is that we are seeing a reduction in that, and that is down to some of the actions that we've been taking in terms of our patrol strategies and some of the inquiries and investigations that we have been running. Now, I know we put a lot of stuff out on social media, and it's quite visible to the people that access that platform. If you don't access it, there are other means of getting it, but it can be a little bit difficult to see it in that first-hand sort of focus that we put out there. But I just want to try and reassure people that we are actioning those figures. They are coming down. The theft category can be quite broad. That will encompass shoplifting, it can encompass theft from people, but serious violence offences like robbery, etc., are very low indeed. And it's quite difficult to try and explain sometimes the context or what could be reported as robbery, where may have this perception that it's quite a violent offence, where we've only had one in the last quarter, and then if we drill into some of the context of it, it wouldn't be quite as you perceive it to be as a robbery. But it's just trying to offer that reassurance that Ashby is a safe place to be and getting safer, hopefully. That leads us on to the new priorities. So every quarter we do set new priorities for the area. So again, we take that from all the engagement events that we put out onto social media, onto the Force website, neighbourhood link system if anyone subscribes to that. And that will show where we are going to be at certain times, so you can come and have conversations with the local PT, tell us what your concerns are, and then that will help inform our priorities and where we can put the resources. So for this quarter, we've set the new ones, which is going to be car cruise activity on the A511 Ashby bypass. That's a continuation of one we had on the last quarter. Now, unfortunately, we have seen a bit of an increase there of car cruise activity, and that is maybe because of some of the good work that we've done on sort of the Kegworth and Castle Donington areas where we've seen it transition across. Obviously, some of the road network does lend itself, unfortunately, to sort of gatherings of vehicles, large gatherings. And unfortunately, the intelligence gap that we have there is quite significant to breach because a lot of the people that engage in that activity use closed platforms, which they'll use WhatsApp groups that we can't penetrate. And it'd be quite difficult to find out exactly when these organised meets are going to occur until the very last minute. And then we have to be very reactive rather than proactive. And we have to send officers that are available to try and disperse that. And as you can imagine, a group of 10 people in cars, it's fairly easy. A group of 100 can be quite a challenge, and we never know quite what we're going to get. And inherently, unless they are committing road traffic offences as well, that can be quite a challenge as well to actually disperse people, if we like, if they're not actually doing anything illegal. So there are some real challenges around that, but we are working closely with the district council in relation to that. Kegworth and Castletownship specifically have had a lot of success with the public spaces protection order, so we'll be exploring that here if we need one of those. And that can be really effective because we can actually put in the details to the council, they can issue enforcement fines, which is a deterrent, and we are seeing some success in the Castletownship area, which has been a bit of a ground zero for us really in terms of car cruising. So if we need to move to that point with the council, then we will do so. We're also going to be looking at antisocial behaviour in Ashley Town Centre, Market Street, North Street. We have had reports there's been small groups of youths congregating, causing a nuisance, just generally being rowdy. It does give that sense of lawlessness at times. We can appreciate people's concerns about it. We are going to be using our ASB powers around that. So it's a relatively small group, so it's not a widespread problem. It's hopefully something we can sort of address very, very quickly. We can get some good results on that. And that rolls on to another one in terms of Normanton and Heath. So again, we've got some problems going on there with certain households that we're looking at, working very closely with the Housing Department of North West Leicestershire Council. And again, it's another way that we're going to be looking at incremental powers about how we can address it. So quality of life type issues are ones that feature very regularly for us. We are taking them very seriously, and we are putting actions in place to try and address them. So we can't give you that reassurance. I know recently we've had some problems. The Ashby Toolbox premises was attacked, and clearly that caused some concerns. Unfortunately, I can't comment on depth in that because there's still a live investigation going on. We did circulate imagery around the suspect, so we are making inquiries around that. What we're trying to do again, give you more reassurance, there is going to be potentially an arrest made from that investigation, and obviously hopefully charges or some sort of positive disposal will follow there. It's not something we've just ignored, it's something we're taking seriously. We are working really closely with the Ashby Toolbox, and they are being updated as recently as this week, so that is an ongoing bit of work. The World Cup, I think that sort of ties in quite nicely with the nighttime economy operations that we're running. It's been a bit unusual, and I'm sure we've just spoke briefly about the hours of the games has caused slightly different sort of way with how we've policed it. I think thankfully we've not been able, or we've not had to put an enhanced operation together in terms of public order or any issues. We've not really seen an increase in anything like that. Hopefully that will continue if we progress any further through the tournament. Clearly the government are allowed to extend licensing hours, and that can be dropped on us fairly quickly, as was the other night when they stayed up till 5 AM. Again, we didn't really see a huge amount of disorder or any significant offences from that or any other games. The one that probably stands out was England versus Panama, where we did have an officer assaulted in Ashby, but that was sort of along the lines of a public order incident. It wasn't directly connected to the football. But again, I think when you have a football competition of this nature, extended opening hours, etc., you are going to get groups of people that are going to probably drink to excess. And there's going to be a bit of potentially a level of rowdiness that we're going to have to sort of contend with. To try and mitigate that, we are still working heavily on the nighttime economy operations that we do in Ashby. We've recently just put out the plastic drugs dog, which was supported by North West Leicestershire Council in terms of financing that, and that is a civilian operation that we support in terms of predominantly acting as a deterrent. It's a very visual deterrent, but again, it still gives us a really good indication to exercise our search powers, looking at drugs issues and trying to prevent any further escalations of drug dealing, any sort of other offending, because things do go on from there when they're out and about. We do put the knife arch out. Again, it's a visual deterrent. Thankfully, we don't get many instances of knife crime related problems in Ashby specifically. But again, it's that visual deterrent and working with the licensees to say, you know, this is a condition of entry to come into our premises. You're going to have to walk through our knife arch, which is a bit like a scanner for people that are not too aware of what it's like you go through an airport. Rough sleepers, I don't know if anyone sort of mentioned or raised that issue through yourselves, but we've not really had a problem with sort of homelessness in Ashby per se. We have noticed recently we've had a couple of people that unfortunately are sleeping up near the top near Wicks. We've also had one set up camp in the Paddington's Garden. The B team have both engaged with those individuals. One of them was actually wanted and been arrested and has not returned to the area. So I think it was a more of a bit of a passing through temporary basis. But there is a rough sleepers team as well, so they are getting some of the support they need. We've got a number of different events coming up, so hopefully you may have seen them on the website. But again, I would encourage anyone or anybody that you know that wants to come to those engagement events. They're really vital for us, really. So if anyone wants to come out and have those conversations with the team, it's a brilliant opportunity to see who they are. I do try to come to the odd one if I can get there. But again, it's that opportunity to sort of speak in reality about what is actually happening. You know, what is the nature of the problems that you're experiencing? I know we get a very mixed view sometimes on social media about what our resources are doing, but, you know, we have finite resources as any organisation does. So we have to put them in the areas that we think was going to cause them no good. We need that information back. So that's why those events are really, really crucial to us. We get that information back. And then we're going to be supporting the Emergency Services Day, which is in a couple of weeks' time on the 26th of July, which is being held in Ashby this time. So it was in Colville last year. It's going to be back on the backgrounds this year. So there'll be a team of officers there. I think that's it for me. And if anyone's got any questions they'd like to throw my way.
Yeah.
Just one comment. You said it would progress.
Well, keep it open. I think we will.
Yeah, councillor Park.
So, most of the drug, passive drug dog. You say it was a private thing?
You can get, there's many of these contractors around in the country. So they're basically drug dog trained animals that go out. They're very much like what we've got. We don't have them anymore. We've got explosive trains and cash dogs. But less football club use them regularly, and they stand there and they're run by security firms. And they give you an indication that there may be cannabis, cocaine generally on an individual, and it gives us that indication, and then that builds our grounds so that we can start researching.
Thank you.
Yeah, councillor Small.
Yeah, can I just ask, there was some questions about parking restrictions in Hill Street. And I know there was a very serious accident at the end of Hill Street. Somebody killed not that long ago. I just wondered, do the police get consulted on those sort of parking, changes to parking?
We do to a degree. It is a frustrating thing, I think, for local police because we don't lead on enforcement on parking issues. You know, the council do have wardens or parking wardens that will come and except we probably don't come to some people's, you know, as often as some people would like. We would say we get consulted all the time. I think we're aware of the problems rather than consulted whether they are going to make significant changes. And that's answered your question, really.
I suppose, have you been consulted on these latest proposals, I suppose?
They might have gone directly, they haven't come directly to me.
No.
They might have gone directly to the neighbourhood sergeant that's had a look at it,
Oh,
who may have sent something back in sort of opinion, or it might have gone through to our traffic management department, who would have made some recommendations if they thought it was necessary.
Any other questions? No. So, yeah, I think that, thank you, Steve. That was a really, thorough report. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Not going to your escape if that's okay then.
Yes. No problem at all. Right, if councillors are all right, I've seen that we've got members of the audience here come for agenda items 12 and 14. We're okay to skip to items, to get items 12 and 14 sorted, so that, and then go back. Yeah. Right, so we're going to Annex 7 then, so to talk about the traffic regulation or this. And saying this is just to receive and comment on those which have been made, including obviously we've got the Hill Street one, which has been mentioned, and then also we've got obviously Tamworth Road, Cambrian Way, Lower Packington, Upper Packington roads. So anyone else to start on this one?
I agree with the lady who spoke earlier with regard to Hill Street. I think it is a terrible overreaction to the, certainly I am aware that there was a fatality at the junction, I believe, Hill Street and Hill Street, but I think the idea of speeding up traffic along Hill Street by putting parking restrictions on both sides would actually have the opposite effect of what we want, is to reduce the speed of traffic in Hill Street and therefore make it safer for pedestrians. So I can see the sense in extending the double yellow lines on the western side of Hill Street, a little further into Hill Street from Courtney Street, because there is an area there where people tend to park, which is makes the whole thing, that junction, quite complicated and dangerous with cars weaving through the various parked cars. But that's I think that's all that's necessary. A slight extension on the western end at the southwest of Hill Street, I think it would be good. And if they wanted to extend it all the way along the western side of Hill Street to make it clear that you can't park there, although some people don't, because obviously if they did, you'd have to get any traffic. But to put it on the east, to put no parking all the way down the eastern side of Hill Street is to my mind completely ridiculous idea. I hope we will object to that.
And if anybody wants any evidence as to how that works, we want pretty close, which occasionally closed the parking, and that becomes a real backbone, having people leaving down there when that happens. And if that's what happens at the Hill Street all the time, I really sympathise with the people living on it and not people trying to get through it. So,
could I just add that also there are a number of people who live on the western side of Hill Street who don't have any off-street parking at all. At least two of those houses don't. And they would really be stuck if they weren't parking.
Yes, councillor Park.
Can I just check that we're not at a date?
No, you're all right.
Even though it says
Yeah.
5:30.
Correct. Yeah. I've obviously consulted with the guy that's dealing with it to say our meeting's tonight.
Yeah.
So I've got until Wednesday to get back to him. But it's like with a lot of planning applications, I'll try and get extensions if they are lapsed or about to lapse. So yeah.
Yes, councillor Smith.
Yeah, more general point really, that these changes seem to have come out of the blue a little bit. In fact, they're suggesting no restrictions where I've never ever seen car parked. For example, underneath the railway bridge or Tamworth Road. I mean, never seen a car parked there. I can't imagine anybody would attempt to park there. So the question in my mind is, who's dreamt up these? How have they been generated? There hasn't been any, as far as I'm aware, a general request to say, would anybody like to change the parking restrictions anywhere? I mean, the one on Lower Packington Road, for example, I know there's been issues on Lower Packington Road, but it's been more about parking up Camden Way than Lower Packington Road, because they tend to park on the grass and the pavement when the football's on. If there's no football on, it doesn't seem to be an issue at all. But I've got a sneaking suspicion that our county councillor has dreamt up some ideas that he thought might be a good idea. And when I questioned him about Hill Street, his justification was that recently it took him ages to drive down there. It doesn't seem like it just doesn't seem to have been based on anything. It's popped up nowhere. And I don't know how much it costs to put yellow lines underneath the railway bridge and consult on it and everything else, but it seems a complete waste of money to me. There is an issue with parking, further away, but when we requested some lines in that similar place, the county council said no, because there haven't been any accidents. Well, I just wonder how many accidents there have been underneath the railway bridge. Not many, obviously. So they're being inconsistent.
I mean, I would, if I may, Chair, I did go back to the Champion County Council just to ask where this had come from. I just said we were, again, the same thing, we were a bit surprised by some of these, and he did say, obviously the Market Street by the fishing, yes, we're aware of that. So Hill Street was requested by the leader of the County Council and local member for Ashford and Zouch, Mr Dan Harrison. Station Road, this was due to a complaint raised by a resident, so I don't know who, but anyway, and around Ashby, Ivanhoe SC, this has been requested multiple times in recent history, most recently by Councillor Kenny Hall. He sits on both ATC and NWLDC. So yes, it was a bit of a mixture.
Yeah.
Shall we say, yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Benfield.
Yeah, I'd just like to pick up a couple of points. I agree with everything Councillor Smith said, and also just pick up on the Packington Road thing with the football club. That is an issue, has been for a long time. So I think that is well represented. But my question, just coming back to Councillor Smith's comments, is should we ask what is the cost of doing this? Because a lot of it does seem slightly nugatory or random, and I think you probably need to know how much the council is going to spend on doing something that no one's asked for.
Yeah, good comment,
So I spoke about Hill Street earlier. I think it's a good point in terms of how much it costs. And I think, I don't think we should be waiting to ask them questions because we've got to respond to this now in order to tell them that we don't want it. We can ask the question at the same time, but we can't really delay our response until we've done that. I'd like to come back on Market Street now because they are now proposing, their proposal is to remove 7 parking spaces at the top end of Market Street all the way down to the Queen's Head. Now, the Town Council has been asking for quite a long time to remove some of the spaces at the top end of Market Street because of the congestion that you get up there and the very narrow nature of Market Street at the top end. But I believe we asked for them to remove the top 4, and they said they were going to do that, and now they've come back with a scheme to remove 7. So there's 3 extra parking spaces that they seem to be wanting to remove for no apparent reason, and obviously, whilst losing parking spaces sometimes is necessary, I don't think there's any need to lose that number at the top end there. So I think we should go back to them and say, we asked for 4, please just remove the top 4.
No, I'll just come in on that one. So I did ask it's a senior technician for traffic and safety at the County Council. So I just asked him about that for clarification because you're right, Councillor Bigman, it's only 4 spaces. And I believe that the other restrictions you refer to relate to where there are existing white zigzags on approach to the signalised crossing. I haven't checked this to justify to see if it actually starts. So a quirk of these zigzags is that while motorists are legally stopping on them, this does not apply to the footway. We intend to add waiting restrictions under the zigzags, which are not actually laid on the road, to enable wardens to ticket any vehicles that park on the footway. We tend to do this as a matter of course for new crossings, but there are plenty of historic crossings like these that we're adding as and when we do tiaras nearby. So that's what we come back with on that one. So it's more about.
So could I come back on that because I don't think he's correct there. They're leaving the 2 parking spaces closest to the crossing. That is on the south west of Queen's Head, down to towards the crossing, and they're taking out the parking spaces on the other side of Queen's Head, going up the street beyond the crossing. So I can understand that they may want to make sure that they have got the appropriate restrictions where the zigzags are, and that probably refers to the other side of Market Street, the south side of Market Street. I don't think it's correct in terms of what I'm saying with regard to our concern about selling this space.
Yeah, so but basically for that we want to go and just say we've seen it before that we were interested in, but I will make that clear on that one.
Right.
Can we comment on
Normally wouldn't, but I'll let a brief, I'll let him have a brief comment and then we'll come to it.
that? Okay, well, I've used that stretch of road on Market Street thousands of times. I think parking in Ashby is prime at the moment. I believe that the only time we get a problem is when people park on the left-hand side as you go down Market Street on the WLs. And I've put them forward a couple of times to put a fence up further down, to put a fence up, stop the cars from parking half and half. That's the only time I've come across a problem there. I don't know about anybody else.
So if we start off with Hill Street, then are we saying we're gonna object?
So no.
Yeah.
Object to having what they're proposing?
Yes.
Yeah. And then with regards to, Councillor Bigby had mentioned about extending the yellows just a bit further from the Walker Street to make clear, we're going to mention that or just go for a straight no?
Well, I'd suggest that we just object to the restriction on the eastern side of Hill Street. Because nobody parks on the western side anyway. Plus, they park on the eastern side.
So just object to the restriction on the eastern part of Hill Street.
That will make it, that's the easiest thing to say that I think would produce what I think we'd like to see, which is continue to be able to park along that side of the road.
Councillor Kingston then.
Just going to ask, mention the houses in Hill Street that don't have any private parking. So I haven't got Minister West right. So you've got like four A and 4B. I mean, I know where they are. They're on the left as you go towards Kilwarby Street. So there's the other side of the road, I take it, where they haven't got parking for the houses, is that right?
Yeah, it's where the footway is raised up and there's a fence.
Oh, I see.
There's two houses there that haven't got drives into the
Right,
houses.
okay.
They're right onto the,
Yeah, so if there's a restriction that make it more difficult for them, I mean, I assume if they own,
Are we able to mention the fact that if we go to county council with speeding problems, they inform us that parked cars are the best thing to stop speeding? Can we not go back with that comment?
Okay.
Because it's the first thing they come back to us with.
We'll do that.
it's, I mean, another point there is that people on Avenue Road are got a problem because they have problems with HGVs trying to get up there, not being able to get there. I've never come across a problem with HGVs on Hill Street. We have to get past with the current situation.
And then,
I thought, as Big was saying, object to on Hill Street, back to Hill Street, object to one side, but in fact they're suggesting both sides. So if we said, don't like this side, and might still got really go on the other side.
Well, just put one, I'll make it clear that, it needs to be just one side because we want to encourage people not to go too fast because, as Rita just said, parked cars help to reduce speeds, not increase. I bet that for you.
Well, I think it's have to have parking where it's now. They're suggesting yellow lines on both sides of the road.
Yes.
So if we say we don't like it on this side, they might still put the yellow lines on the other side.
Well, that's all right.
We're all right
That's
with
what
that.
we're saying. It's okay to be on the other side.
I think the lady said the same, which is here as well.
Because nobody parks this way, because you can't park on both sides of the road and get any traffic.
And we'll see.
It's impossible.
That's Hill Street.
so if we go on to Market Street then, so are we going to go back saying that obviously we'd ask for the top four where the fishing is, but not the full 7, which then takes you down pretty much to the crossing.
Yeah, we can support you.
No, I'm going to say that's a lot of spaces, but just to double check everyone's consensus on that, Right, then we come to Tamworth Road and the railway bridge.
I suggest we don't say anything.
I'm going to say
It's just a bit bonkers, but
and then finally around the football club on the junction of Cambrian Way and then the lower Packington is past the football ground. Again, are we not gonna need to any comment on those?
Personally, I would say that there does need to be some restrictions there, because of the parking at public ends. It's not,
So we're not objecting to that.
I don't, yeah, sorry,
That's it, yeah.
I beg your pardon.
I suppose the question now would be, should we be office of them to be extended to up Camden Way?
We're further along Packington Road. There is the other issue, of course, with, they have built their proper access, which was required by planning. And, if there's cars parked across it or opposite, we need to make sure that there's double yellow lines around that access. So I'm not 100% sure where it is along. It's the same way.
It is along that road.
I think it's along that there, isn't it? So that would need yellow lines around that, so.
Yeah.
So it's got it double yellows on it on that plan, because it's kind of where the PMEA of Packington is. Where they've just put the access
I think
in,
it probably is, yeah.
so it should be covered up to that proposal. So. With that, should we say, if there's no comment on the Station Road, but if we just say we're broadly in favour of that one, just so it isn't complete. Yes. Then thinking whether they want it.
I also suggest that we do mention the fact that we felt we weren't happy about claiming that we had already agreed these things with the national consultant, because it didn't look very good for members of the public to think that Ashby Town Council had already agreed these.
Yeah. So are you moving it and?
Yeah, just want to move that and then. So Chris,
Okay, thank you.
everyone okay with that? Yeah. Well, we'll go on to item 14 then, which is Annex 9. So this is words out footpath 089 receivers from the correspondence there. So I know that when I was put out for everyone, there's with regards to the planning application for Money Hill Phase 2. So the solicitors acting on behalf of the Wainwrights have put an objection into Phase 2. Basically, which I think can be summarised succinctly as saying that they want to extinguish the footpath now, which is bonkers, I think is the best way to put it, considering that when the master plan was built, the whole idea was that that footpath would be in place so that people could get into the town centre to access the town, but not create absolute carnage on Nottingham Road trying to get into town. So I think this as well kind of basically says the Wainwrights don't want to improve that footpath, despite the fact that that footpath runs through the yard and they have a legal duty to make sure people can use and access that route, as do many other landowners in the county. Go on, Councillor Benfield.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, my understanding is that the only reason you can close a footpath and extinguish it is because of lack of use. Well, Wainwright solicitors have very ably demonstrated that there is a requirement for the footpath because of the increasing use of it. So thanks very much for that statement. And I mean, it just incenses me that they think this is an acceptable way to go ahead. And I agree entirely, you know, if as a result of their operations, they have made that footpath unsafe, it is absolutely up to them to restore it and to make it safe. Yeah, totally in agreement with you.
And so I think also ought to also say in Annex 9, we've got after the last the steering group for Money Hill, which was the May one, I did write to county with regards to the footpath, asking them to take enforcement action, which is they can do as the statutory duty to make sure that basically as you go in at the moment, there are cars parked over the actual route. So to clear them and then put like temporary bollards in so that, so I know one of the things they did want was to have access to that sort of bit of greenery where they've got some cars parked up. So you'd be able to have temporary bollards, people could walk up fine. And then a long-term solution, which we've all been after for how many years now, trying to get them to agree a proper route for a footpath a proper tarmac one to come down, which I think the solution which county were aiming for involved taking a corner of a small snippet of land off the Ivanhoe College, which is not a short-term issue, despite some people thinking that you can do it in a matter of months. It's years and years because you have to go to Secretary of State for Education to sign on. Because understandably there was a problem in the 90s when they were selling off all school playing fields. So now you have to go to the Secretary of State to get them to say, yes, we're at a single inch of ground, never mind, no one much we need. So, yeah, it's, in a sec, I was saying, and some county have come back to us with regards to that. Basically, as I said, it's in there, in the pack. Basically saying that they're still discussing it pretty much and will keep us up to date. There wasn't much of substance in there. So councillor.
Sorry, thanks for allowing me to come back, Chair. The other thing that I thought was completely disingenuous is that they're saying, because of the massively increased use of the footpath, they're making it sound like there's hordes of people coming down this footpath. And of course, it's people walking in, ones, twos and threes, perhaps more frequently, but that shouldn't affect. It's not like there's a great broad group of people walking down across their yard. Not a bit of it. So yeah, the way that it's written is deeply irritating. I'm irritated, Chair.
It's fine to be irritated. And any other councillor Bigland?
First of all, just going back to the letter that we've had back from the county. The thing that I query in this is that they say that they note our concerns of the route and request for enforcement, but they say that since the cars are not on the official line of the highway, they cannot be subject to formal requests. Now, my belief is that those cars aren't parked on the official route. I appreciate that the route does go down the right-hand side for a short before it crosses over onto the other side of the yard. But I'm pretty sure that there are cars parked on the route up at that end. But if anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if I'm not wrong, we should say that we don't agree. And maybe we'll talk about that before.
Well, just on that subject, I think this email's having it both ways on this subject. Either the footpath route goes from the right-hand side and across the lorry route, and it might be debatable about whether cars are parked there. It's probably are parked on there, but what's very clear is that the barriers across the route. But on that occasion, they're willing to make an exception, and he's saying, well, they put a gate in on the left-hand side, and you can use the gate on the left-hand side. So they seem to be saying, on one instance, that the route is the cars related to the route doesn't matter, but the route is blocked unequivocally by the barrier. Now, I think we all might say, well, it would actually be a better way, but it can't have it both ways. I would say, well, we can ignore the route on this case, but on the case of the cars, the route takes precedent. It's quite clear that to me that well, I think we know it, but the landowner has made their hand clear when they say they want to close and extinguish it. They talk. Edwin talks about discussions going on, and indeed, if you're an Agios Facebook reader, you'll see some things about discussions going on. But I know nothing about those discussions. There has not been any information published about those discussions. The route that they're planning to go down, I don't know what it is. It's never been published. And it's where there is so much concern in the town about this, we are impotent because we don't actually have any powers over this situation, but it is extremely frustrating And it's all down because the landowner is a very difficult body of people to work with. And I just don't think we should let them get away with acting in that manner. I think we ought to pull their bar. They should publish what they're planning to do, publish the route, and publish how much it's going to be cost, and get transparency on the situation, because they're just allowing the landowner to hold them over the barrel, and that is simply wrong, I do. I could go on to comment about some town councillors who attend those meetings, but I won't at this stage.
If I can, go and cancel with
Say my specific. Coming back to the Wainwright's legal letter, objection to phase 2, I would suggest that we, as a council, put in an official response to the planning application to say that we do not agree with the removal of the footpath, given the reasons obviously that we needing to get open. I think we need to officially respond to them. And I will just refer to that what Councillor Smith raised with regard to there has been stuff on Facebook from certain town councillors stating that a meeting has been convened within the next few weeks for all stakeholders and landowners to come together, request things yet further, and that those councillors will be attending the meeting. I think we need to make it clear to at least to the county council, who one assumes will be running that meeting, that they are not officially representing the town council, and we would like to be invited officially to that meeting. They haven't come to this meeting to tell us about it, which is all even more annoying.
Any of the councillors wish to comment?
I'm just saying, when we were at the army school, that used to be part of the cross-country run, and we went, we just between school and Wainwright, so we went side by side, and like I say, we run that on a regular basis. It's my last time on it, we raced for life. And, yeah, just I can't understand where they get the land from.
Yeah, so for this one then, we all agreed that I'll go as I say, from your steering group, we'll make sure we get a reply relating to firstly the legal letter to say actually we need it open because of the numerous issues related to factors on the master plan, the access to town, etc., etc. And with regard to the correspondence for county, are we okay if we delegate to myself just to respond to Edwin relating to the officer at county relating to it, just to go back to him on the parts, sorry, and the other elements on there which we've discussed.
Yeah. And also, I think the point that Dave made about these discussions, because he does talk about discussions, I think, doesn't he? These discussions are going well or something. That the town council will have some visibility of those discussions and what is being planned. If necessary and confidential, if you know, they think it's that sensitive, but there's no reason at all, I don't think, for the council to be aware of what is being cooked up there. And I use that expression advisedly because I'm very dubious about what's happening.
So there's 3 things. Does somebody want to move that? So 3 agreements.
Could we impress on county that if the footpath is closed, they're going to have far more problems with people walking down the road, which will be far more dangerous, and it's going to cost them a lot more money to put speed on whatever to slow down traffic along there, because there will be a lot of people walking along there at certain times of the day, school time.
Yeah.
It will be more dangerous than walking along that road than that footpath. And it will cost the county a lot more money.
Yes.
Just to be clear, this is a response to the planning application, therefore that would go to the district council.
I think it's two responses here.
District council,
Sorry,
we need one to the county to be able to.
yeah.
What they're saying. Yeah, the district with regard to the planning application, the objection.
Shall I, if I do district things you don't count.
That's not a big problem.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
I'm giving that vote. Somebody, have a second for that? Oh, councillor Rogerio, councillor Field, that's the late. Thank you. I don't think we're gonna fight with.
no.
That's what you think.
Right, we'll move back to the agenda event, so I think we're up to item 9 and the licensing applications. So that was now next. We'll say the crime report, sorry, yeah, we're going to that. So. Yeah, Annex 3. Yeah. So yes, Annex 3 then, the crime report, if anyone has any comments on those, I say that the data we've got now is going back to April of this year. I think overall compared year on year, crime is down both in the town centre and overall across the town itself. Anyone has any comments, but no, we gave a pretty.
I think we've got the.
Right, so we'll go on to the licensing then. So in regards to that, there was just. So there was one application with regards to Bull's End. I say that's closed now, hasn't it?
Yeah, we dealt with that last meeting.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
getting up there for last meeting, I should say.
And then there was one from the Lamb Inn, which was basically a renewal of their pavement licence, wasn't it? Which again, I think we went to outside this meeting.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Could you respond to that?
Yeah, so basically with regards to that, we've basically gone back and said this, as with anything, if there is any trouble, licensing can call it in. There hasn't been any, they've been fine, and we know that there's been quite a lot of restrictions put on with the bull and stuff, and there's restrictions for the lamb. So it was working, there were no issues, they got restrictions in case something did happen. So we have put no objection with regards to that. So I think there was any need to, it's not as if they were trying to treble or double the size of the area or anything else. So that's it, so just to offer no objection on that one. Right, we'll move on to item 10 then, planning applications. Right. It's on to you. Yeah. And that one. Oh, that one. Yeah.
What's the thing English there?
Sure.
That's that one.
Yeah, we're in. That's right.
Yeah, I suppose it was too much.
There you go.
Right. Okay. Right, first application is 3 Wilsley Road, and this is the demolition of existing orangery and erection of a single-storey flat roof extension to create a dining room utility toilet. There is no comments or objections to that application. Don't know if I've got anything else to show you on that. With a huge amount. Yeah.
Second service.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm giving no objection.
No objection? No, yeah.
Objection, you said on the reason.
And we've got the Lines, which is 67 Measham Road. And this is demolition of existing garages and erection of new garage with bedroom over linked structure and swimming pool gym enclosure. So that's obviously that big property. the opposite side of most of the houses. We've had several others that have in the past, you might recall.
You know, where the Kenses used to live, motorbike lads.
Okay.
Should they not
So
live
we've
there?
got,
Do they not live there?
I think they've got,
so the only statutory consultative houses environmental protection, or when I looked at it last week anyway, who have no objections, so I assume there's been no comments since then.
No, I looked today in the morning.
Okay.
No objection then?
Yeah. Right, next one is land to the west of Ashby Road. It's change of use of land and conversion of 2 existing outbuildings to form 2 detached dwelling houses and associated works to include the installation of a non-mains drainage system. You might recognise this, we have had a couple for this exact patch. I think the last one that we had was for 5 properties. And they also sent in a speculative application, which we had to deal with outside of the meeting. It's one of these new ones, the
Self-build.
yeah, no, it's but it's not, is it a PIC one, isn't it? It's a action in principle. So we'll, but anyway, this particular one, we've had LCC Minerals and Waste, Environmental Protection and LCC Archaeology offered no objection. Natural England Environmental Agency required copy of position notice re cesspit. The Highway Authority requires speed survey. Now, we objected to previous application for 5 houses, as I said earlier on because it sits outside the limits of development as detailed in policy S3, and obviously that's regardless of if it's 3 or 5 or 10, it's still the same. So that's what we said last time.
Yeah. And if I'm right, this is the bit as you go over the motorway, isn't it? That bit.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so they've been working on those ones which they want to convert quite recently, so. I mean, it feels as if they've kind of almost decided it's gonna be done while they're building it, but
It's just so noisy. I just think, 'cause I walk there regularly and it's each to their own, but I think one of the things is that they need to do an acoustic survey.
provide this based upon the local.
Yeah.
Offer an objection based upon the local plan.
It's the outside hours, that's a big bit.
Yeah, I think we just have to be a bit careful on this one because I think this is reuse or adaptation of buildings for appropriate purpose, which is covered in the countryside section, because this is converting existing buildings as opposed to building new. I think it's slightly different in terms of the local plan, and they have got a way of saying that it, because it's reused buildings, that it's exempted from the being outside limits of development. You may not want to mention that, but I think that is the case.
Certainly.
Yeah, the PIP is for, I think it's for 3.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, and on a different bit of the same field, so this will be in addition to those that they're asking for with PIP, the self-builds.
And for that, we did send, I'll use the same reference, but with regards to the new neighbourhood plans, it's the policy numbers obviously changed. Okay, right with that. Right, then we go along to former site of Arlid Dairy, Smisby Road. This is approval of details reserved by conditions. It's a discharge of conditions application, this one. The approval of details reserved by condition 2, which is protection of Gilly Whiskey Brook, 3, drainage, 7, scheme of access to adjacent land, and 17, connection to right of way relating to, connection to right of way of footpath 080 relating to planning permission reference 25/01314. There are quite a few comments, which are then. We've got urban designer. He's talked about the condition 7, which is the scheme of access to adjacent land. He said needs to be some greater detail in relation to condition 7, specifically to clarify how the road might be intended to be used. My assumption is that the link road itself would form the dominant road, with the cul-de-sac being secondary, but I think this needs a little more design detail to understand how this might be achieved. The thumbnail plan to the right-hand side suggests this priority, but additional measures would be needed to make it work, such as some vertical deflection, and this is not indicated. LLFA, so that's a flood authority, requires comprehensive detail from the applicant to demonstrate the means by which it is proposed to manage flood and pollution risk from the duration of the construction phase of the development. This should include specific details, ideally indicated on the plan. The highway authority, and there's quite a long document that they've submitted. So it's noted that there are two connections between the site and footpath 080 to the south and east of the site. The southern connection is proposed to be stepped. The needs of people with disabilities and those less able should be catered for at the outset by careful consideration of surfacing widths and gradients. Therefore, the LHA requests that a ramp should be provided. Unless it is demonstrated this would not be achievable and require further information regarding the surfacing and widths proposed. The eastern connection has two options shown. The first option shows a pedestrian connection only, for which the LHA would advise that additional information is required regarding the surfacing and widths proposed. From the enclosures plan, the LHA note that a gap in the fence is provided to enable pedestrian access. The LHA advise that the fence is to run alongside the public right of way, and the LHA requires a section drawing to be provided detailing 2 metre footwear surfaced in town macadam with 1 metre verge space either side before any fencing which would enclose the PROW is provided. The second option includes a vehicular connection towards the eastern parcel. The LHA advises that from a highways perspective, there is no requirement for a vehicular connection in this location with regards to Moneyhill Phase 2, and nor is this proposed as part of the live Phase 2 application. The LHA would query whether such a connection could be delivered given potential land ownership constraints. Nonetheless, this is a matter for the applicant and the LPA, the District Council, to consider. The LCC would require additional information regarding proposed road widths, surfacing and junction type. They'd also consider that a vehicular access serving Moneyhill Phase 2 would likely take priority over Street 02, and further consideration of private drive serving plot 141 would be required, further complicating delivery. Additional information would also be required regarding treatment of PROW 080 across the vehicular access. The LHA also advised that its interpretation of conditions 7 and 17 require formal proposals between PROW 80 and the land associated with Moneyhill Phase 2 to enable formal connections, and would encourage the applicants to engage directly to reach an appropriate solution. There's lots there. I'm assuming that everybody knows, but footpath 080 is the one that runs along Wood Park and Gilly Whiskey all the way up to what's it called though? What's the Clifton Thorpe, that's all Clifton Thorpe, yeah. And obviously Moneyhill Phase 2 is wider up. Ecology, no objections, although they have said within 3 months of the decision, scheme shall be submitted to the local planning authority for approval detailing protection of the Gilly Brook during and following construction works. The Environment Agency have said the detailed activities are put into a schedule plan for the first year and then year 2 onwards. However, year 2 onwards appears to have actions by a landscape maintenance firm. The landscape maintenance firm is missing from definition of terms on page 2. Therefore, should this be added, as this is a different responsibility? So I suppose what we're trying to look at there is nothing that's missed further down the line, that body of land gets left and not maintained. The plan is also missing a detailed map showing the reader where each management activity is delivered, and doesn't explain how the reputational management of the wildflower and tussocky areas will be recorded to ensure the right management. They do go on, but you kind of get, they're obviously looking for additional clarification. But there is, it's obviously quite difficult to show clear images of this particular application because it's a really large one. So I'm just kind of trying to paste in the relevant bits. I mean, if you walk along, yeah, so that, and it's that connection code here, that's a lot of the. So this is the bit where they're kind of saying, would there be a footpath through there? I mean, I've walked along it and you can tell people are just jumping over the fence actually to kind of use it. I don't know whether you are, it's kind of fairly near where you are. It's, I may have done that myself. I'm not saying one way or the other, but there it is. I think that might be all I. Oh yeah, and then what I've tried to do is just put those three in so you can see them a little bit clearer. So obviously they've got the side on there is the pedestrian connectivity, as it says. And then that one, it's the same access point, but if it would be a vehicular access, that's where it would be from. And then you've got this stepped connection to the public right of way, which that's as you kind of walk on footpath 080, it kind of swings round, or you have got the option of going onto the new estate. I don't know if anybody's walked that before, but yes, yeah. So that's kind of, I think that's everything. Yeah, that's it. Do you want me to flick back on any of these images, or have you all chance to look?
The other bit is that environment.
Yeah, I think that is actually the most useful.
So the Environment Agency have mentioned that they're about this, the last bit mentions about they're going to discharge straight into the Gilliwisky Brook. And to stop that, because obviously then that goes into the Ribneys and all the rest, they want a retention pond.
Yeah.
Which is obviously not a small thing, such as the wood pond. Yeah. So there seem to be quite a lot of areas pointed out by various bodies. I think is my summation of it all. Go on, Carl.
Very quick one. In all of that, thank you, Mark, for reading so much out. It was thrilling. Didn't hear anything about lighting, footpaths and roads. Are they going to be lit? And I'm assuming all this is going to be adopted by the county afterwards. So it would be good to get that put in.
Yeah, that might be mentioned in the scheme. I'm not sure. Because obviously this is just with regards to amendments, but I can certainly clarify that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the fact that the county, the Highways Authority have stated that they don't think a connection there's no reason for having a connection through to Money Hill, indicates that they're not familiar with the master plan for Money Hill, which really states that there will be. And I think we need to make that clear in any objection. That it is a requirement, and it is a requirement, it's an important requirement. And I think, personally, that this proposal is not really satisfactory, because it should be a straight road through. Whether the developers have accidentally disposed of this bit of land here is unfortunate, but it's something they need to do something about. It is. And obviously the Highways Authority say that it should have priority, that route should have priority over going around the corner. So it needs straightening out. I really think we should say that is what we require. I also think that condition 7, which is what this is all about, says that the scheme shall be completed in accordance with the approved details and timetable, and thereafter maintained at all times. So but the application seems to think or be asking for condition 7 to be struck off as being complied with. But all they're doing is putting in a plan that needs to be approved. But I would suggest that we need to say to them that the actual scheme needs to be completed before condition 7 can be discharged. Does that make sense?
So are we okay then to go back using those 2 points that Councillor Bigby's mentioned about the 7 should be discharged? Obviously, sure. Yeah, we disagree with the the Highways Authority with the fact that obviously the master plan says they've got to have that connection. Yeah.
I just as I grew around that area, there's actually three shops come out the Gilliwisky One comes from Hillside Smithsbury Road. So one comes from Stilton Road and it follows the wood along the Smithsbury, there's a wood just off Smithsbury Road. And then there's the one there's a spring comes from the reservoir. So I don't know if you want to look at all three of them. But the whole amalgamate just topside Northfields. So I'm not sure which one the class as a Gilly whiskey. I should imagine it's the one from Stilton Arrow. Well, I know it, Northfields, that's a Gilly whiskey, but it comes through what we used to call Magpie Wood, straight down the centre of the woodland, which is bypass cut through the woodland, but there's still stream. But there's a couple of freshwater springs, the other side of Smithsbury Road, where that also fills Gilly whiskey up, and there's a spring reservoir. Actually, that's another one.
So that's the boundary, so it's whatever's contained within that, so I think it's the lot, it's the main.
Oh, there's
stretch that. Yeah, that's through there, yeah.
So the reservoir is up by Neil Farm.
Right, so we all okay with that?
Can I add that with regard to the other footpath, which is down the bottom end to the south side?
Is that on
The highways that I was suggesting needs.
Oh, yeah, the one down there, yes, yeah.
I think we should probably agree with that.
Okay, yeah.
But
Yes.
because, people are, if at all possible, they should provide a ramp.
Make it accessible, yeah.
Because the rest of it's all, oh my goodness, it's all that little bit anyway. Yeah, that's slight, it's a bit by, pedestrian, probably leave it anyway, loosened.
I assume the requirement for the suds, I suppose it's the suds that they're asking.
Yes.
That would be, do we need to comment on that at all? I guess it's not really remit. Although I would wonder whether or not we ought to comment at all about the fact that this is going to be go to a management company. Probably have a view on whether to be suggesting that council's involvement might be.
We can always suggest, can't we, but mentioned it quite a few times in relation to the parking body.
I suppose with this old
Play areas.
section, isn't it? I mean, but we don't, I mean, I can certainly put it in, yeah.
As you say, it's already been covered in.
Yeah.
It's very important, so be too late.
Just missing another sentence, but don't do any harm.
You okay with that?
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Right, next one, long. So this is Three Brookside, replacement of existing UPVC windows and doors with UPVC equivalents and replacement of existing rendered wall finish rear. You can see where it is. They're all the existing elevations and that's what they are proposing. I mean, it's not, as you not be surprised to hear, there are no comments or objections to that one.
Objections.
Okay, sure. We've then got a tree application, so it's works to one acre tree to remove small fruits of deadwood on the southern side. Works to one large tree to remove felled limbs and crown rays above hedges to ensure minimum 2 metre clearance, and one lime tree for clearance of undergrowth to facilitate a basal inspection of trees on boundary and crown clean of southernmost boundary. We see they're unprotected trees in a conservation area. Our tree warden has no objections to these.
No objection.
Thank you. We then pop along to Blackford Bay. So this is 27-foot lane, installation of a new log burner and external flue, which is the retrospective application. So you can see the property there. Oh yeah, that's the only image I've kind of got of it. So I think they're just the new ones. There were no comments or objections unless you know anything later.
I don't see any objection.
No objection.
Environmental health object, which is,
They did on the different.
they did, right, which is, I would have thought the most relevant. People want to poison themselves with
No, of course, yeah.
not burns.
Yeah, with that one, right. Next one is Greystones, which is on 34 of Packington Road. Alterations to 2 existing dormers on front and side elevations and insertion of 1 dormer on rear elevation. I've got a couple of pictures of this one, yeah, so you kind of got the before and then the after. And when I looked last week, there were no comments or objections. That was anything on there now?
No objection.
Okay. And finally, we've got Union Passage, which is enlargement of existing rear dormer at first floor level to provide additional bedroom accommodation. So it's obviously fairly central. And that's the, oh, that is on the bottom, yeah. So I've got them all. Oh yeah, so there's the existing on the top and the suggested on the bottom. There are no, when I last looked, there were no comments or objections to that.
No
objection.
No. Right, so move those.
Just move on
Mass.
yeah.
Yeah.
On the on-site, that's the way look like.
Right, Annex 6 then, so receiving of the planning decisions. You there. Right. We move on then to item 13 to Annex 8. This is the Money Hill Steering Group from June 5th. Let's say with regards to this one. Let's say obviously we've met again for Path 89, we've discussed already. I won't go back into that one. And then we did have an update from district with regards to the plan, etc. And the district have been communicating today, about house numbers not under occupied, etc. And then obviously the other bit of note is obviously the community work, facility working group, which has created a business case now. And saying I think there's a survey which is going out relatively shortly. It's not already.
Yeah, that's gone out. Yeah, it's about 14 responses, which I should be in due course.
And saying then, just to set the final point, obviously there was a query raised on in that meeting as well with regards to Williamsfield things we had district councilling, because obviously that was an application we saw a while ago and it's got no resolution. And district just clarified that there's some technical issues there, so it's still ongoing. It hasn't had a result, and we weren't aware of it. So if everyone's okay with that, I'll move on to item 15. This is correspondence about 30 mile an hour and 40 mile an hour review. I know that it's on our agenda last month, yeah, and I know that as the Councillor Manning raised an issue with obviously with area where it jumps in terms of speed of 30 to 40 to 50 and back down again. County have come back basically saying no.
They want to drive along there.
Yeah, I'm going to say they might change their mind until weren't sitting down. We were just responding en masse. But yeah, not what we wanted. But yeah,
we're certainly going to feel so we're all sat at home. Most of them don't live in the county of Leicestershire.
So I know certainly, Jack, when I spoke to him about the consultation with regards to town centre, they were sat in the office then.
Ooh.
Definitely from the pictures that I can see behind them, I can see people at laptops and walking around. So they were in there. So yeah, it's not all mothballed just yet.
So, about that road, coming from Norris Hill into Ashby and the 40 to 30 to 40 and 50 straight to 30, there is a person who's written to Ashby Wolds Town Council and sent it to me and to Andrew Woodman district councillor for Blackford and to Adam Tilbury. And Chuck was saying there that, we're not careful, we'll have people seriously injured. And I was thinking how dangerous it is because there have already been people killed on that road, let alone seriously injured. So I'll just draw everybody's attention to that, because I know often people say, oh, you have to wait till people get killed. Since I've lived in Ashby, 5 people have been killed on these roads. 3 of them I knew very well. So that's just the point I was going to make, that people forget in a very short time, that somebody was actually killed. And we see flowers still from fatal accidents.
I say certainly if we wanted to pursue it, it would probably be worth putting a freedom of information request in if you wanted council people to do the county to ask them for the accident data, and then that'll give you that, and then we can pursue it that way.
Now there is a thing called Crash Map. I think it's just independent, because I looked up by myself and I couldn't see it. So so I think the thing to do would be to go to the highways.
Yeah, go to county and ask them for the information, and put freedom of information request in, and that'll get you the data. I know that's certainly what we did with regards to footpath 89. We wanted the footpath group put a request in, and we got that data about incidents, so we could say, look, the route you're sending down North Street has accidents on it. I'd sooner have them on a footpath where there's just a couple of lorries first thing and last thing in the day. So
okay, thanks.
That's certainly what I'd do. Right. Last on we got item 16, so the usual temporary traffic regulations. To say we've got quite a few of them in the Willesby area of town, relating to 7 trains who seem to be digging up every field in that part at the moment to do maintenance. And then obviously we've got a footpath on Windsor Road, and I think there's Upper Church Street, which is at the end of the month in relation to say electricity work, but not too many this month, which is nice for change. Right, that covers the agenda we've got tonight. Thank you for attending, everyone. And say we'll bring the meeting to an end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fun.